YearA Lesson 10, The Son of Promise. Monday's lesson is entitled The Biggest Test. Memory verse, Romans chapter 8 verse 32. He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Our Bible reference is found in Genesis chapter 22 verses 4 through 19. Finally, on the third day, Abraham could see Mount Moriah in the distance, and the bright, glowing cloud hanging over it left no doubt that he was obeying God. What did he tell his servants to do? Genesis chapter 22, verse 5. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. As Abraham and Isaac climbed the mountain, Isaac finally asked the question Abraham had been dreading. That's in verses 7 and 8. Genesis chapter 22, verses 7 and 8. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. When they reached the place where he was to build the altar, Abraham finally had to tell Isaac what God had said he must do. At first, Isaac was shocked and terrified. He was a strong young man and could easily have turned and gone back home. But because he had learned to trust God, as well as his father, he told Abraham to obey God. Finally, everything was ready. Isaac lay quietly on the altar. Abraham lifted the knife, but suddenly everything changed. Read verses 10 through 12. Genesis chapter 22, verses 10 through 12. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. It isn't hard to imagine what happened next. Abraham and Isaac were probably both crying for joy as they hugged each other. In their minds, it was as if Abraham had actually killed his precious son and Isaac had actually died, for they were preparing to do it. And but for God's voice, it would have happened. God had given Abraham the hardest test, and he had passed the test. Did God provide a sacrifice? Verses 13 and 14. Genesis chapter 22, verses 13 and 14. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. People who obey God's law by His help, however how hard they are tested, are being like Abraham was. No wonder he is called the father of the faithful. Abraham was so sure God would keep his promises about Isaac. He believed he could and would raise his son from death. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And Hebrews chapter 11 verses 17 through 19. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. Let's apply it. When the angels saw what Abram and Isaac did on Mount Moriah that day, they better understood God's amazing plan to save us from sin. And as we think of how Abraham felt about sacrificing his son, we better understand the terrible sacrifice God the Father made by giving his only precious son to die a horrible death. And though it was very hard, they were willing because of their love for us. But when our sins killed Jesus, he couldn't see his loving father like Isaac saw his loving father, and no one took his place like a ram took Isaac's place on the altar at Mount Moriah. The ram represented Jesus, who took our place on the cross at Mount Calvary. Aren't you thankful for God's wonderful love for every one of us?